And how she's kicking herself in the scene. You got a whole stadium to connect with you. As earlier on in the when they're at the game, he's having fun with some people. He said, "You have a whole stadium connect with you. I can't even connect with one customer. My stupid temper always kicks in." And then she drooped aside the basket. "I guess I just say what I feel," said Wade. "I don't think a temper is so bad. Sometimes when I lose my temper, I think it's just me trying to tell me something I'm not ready to hear." And then the scene goes on. And then I like this. Then he asks her out on a date, which is kind of cute, I guess. He says, "Any chance you're free tomorrow to hang out with a water guy?" "With a water guy?" Ember smiled. "My dad would boil you alive." I mean, even that. I mean that's an interesting aspect too. That it looks like she says, "My dad would boil you alive." Now that could be interpreted, a few different ways. I mean, it's showing that maybe her dad's a little prejudiced too towards water people, which I mean that's an interesting aspect. I'll admit. Like there was a scene similar. I know I'm trying not to compare it to Zootopia. I mean, yes, it's similar. I'm not bashing this at all for it, but there's a scene when Nick pretendedly he gets angry. Oh no, he gets angry at Judy, and he chastises her for carrying fox repellent. He's a fox, she's a rabbit, so you get it, I guess. But he said, "Why do you even?" Says something along the line of, I think he says, "You have to carry fox repellent," and he says, "Are you afraid of me? You think I might eat you?" And then she reaches back at the fox repellent as if she was ready to use it on him. And then he says, "I knew it." If you see the film, you know what happens later, yada yada. But that was like, I mean, that was a real great scene showing that the fact that she was so against any type of discrimination makes sense. But in that moment she should know that Nick would never hurt her. Nick was always this kind guy to her. But yet she instinctively went for the fox repellent, which shown that she wasn't free of prejudice really in a way. But anyway, back to this story. And then the next night, and then they're having trouble with the pipe, you know, with the pipe leaking water, leaking water and all that. And then Ember goes out to meet Wade, and then Claude tries to ask her out again. "My queen." Funny. And then Mark Q read Tide and Prejudice, which obviously is a pun on the film Pride and Prejudice, I think. When did that come out? 2005. Oh, it's an old novel from 1813. And what was it about? I've never seen it. Followed the turbulent relationship between Elizabeth Bennet, the daughter of a country gentleman, and Fitzwilliam Darcy, a rich aristocratic landowner. They must overcome the titular sins of pride and prejudice in order to fall in love and marry. And I think that's kind of clever, using that as a reference in here. Obviously renaming it, but it's fitting in with the theme, with prejudice, discrimination in the story. So that's kind of clever, I think. I like this. When he saw Ember coming, he teared up. When the lights dimmed inside, Ember's flame shone bright, too bright. All around her, audience members scowled. She pulled the hood tightly around her flames and slunk into her seat. I mean, even that shown that people were afraid to be around her. Like, they were afraid to. They didn't want to be around her, I guess, with a 10-foot pole if you want to go there. I mean, I understand, but the audience members scowled. Yeah, it's kind of messed up. After the movie, they go into a photo booth. They take some funny pictures. Ember's glow blew out the exposure. Only thing visible were two sets of white eyeballs. That's kind of funny. Then Cinder sees the picture Ember had. They wanted to dance. They see a flash mob, but she was afraid of her heat boiling him. They have sandbags. That they try to fix a crack with. It's kind of interesting. Then when he tries to try the food, and then her dad meets Wade. He asked her. The dad thinks he's a food inspector. As far as you know, yeah, Wade said, inspect this. Burning coal nuts. So he eats one. And, it's pretty hot for him, obviously. But then. But then it takes a turn. He's he says Wade says after the heat dies down, that's really good. He pointed at the coal nuts. If you don't mind, Wade grabbed a cup and scooped up another portion of coal nuts. He dripped water onto them from his finger, and the nuts smoldered and hissed. Ember gasped. She cleared her throat, trying to get Wade's attention. This was going to burn her father up. She slid her hand across her neck as to say, "Cut, stop, please." But Wade didn't take the hint. He took a drink from the mug and smacked his lips. See, it's really tasty if you water it down a little. And then her dad gets really mad. Water us down? Bernie exploded. Water us down? Where's the camera? He pulled an instant camera from behind the counter and snapped a photo of Wade's terrified face. We will never be watered down by you, declared Bernie. Get out. Ember hurried toward Wade. All right, sir, she said. You gotta go. As Wade backed out of the shop, Bernie was still huffing and glaring. Dad, don't worry, Ember called to him. I got this, she followed Wade out the door. And he pins Wade's photo under a banned sign. He is banned, Ember gently corrected. That's kind of interesting. It's kind of funny, but yeah. And then they go for a walk on the beach, it seems. And Wade says, I know it can be tough with my dad. We're like oil and water. I never got a chance to fix that. His voice was heavy with regret. But you guys are different. It might be time to tell him. Ember shoveled faster. Yeah, right, she said. Tell him what, that I gotta shut down and destroy his dream? Without a furious yell. Then she collapsed to her knees. Her fire simmered to a soft, gentle candlelight. That's kind of sad. She calmed down. Her prismatic inner light showed through. I think I'm failing, she murmured. Murdered. Oh my god. I think I'm failing, she murmured. My Ashva should have retired years ago. But he doesn't think I'm ready. You have no idea how hard they've worked or what they've had to endure. The family they left behind. Yeah, that's pretty, I mean, that, shown that they had to leave their homeland for hoping for a better life. I mean, for many, that's pretty relatable, I think. That's a well written part. She paused and then finally asked the question that was burning in her heart. How do you repay a sacrifice that big? It all feels like a burden. How can I say that? Ember sank lower and hung her head. I'm a bad daughter, she whispered. And Wade crouched beside her. Hey, no, he said. You're doing your best. Ember sniffed. I'm a mess, she said with a small laugh. She fired up her flames, trying to cover her vulnerable light. Nah, said Wade. I think you're even more beautiful. When he grinned, Ember smiled back. Maybe you're right when you said my temper is trying to tell me something, she admitted. Then Wayne noticed, that her fire was making sand in the glass. But that whole conversation, though, I think that's like a real tender moment. It's really well written and a pretty touching scene. Then she meets Wade's parents, and his mom's name's Brooke. It says here, she said, "Do we hug or wave or don't want to put you out?" Ember smiled nervously. "Hello is fine." "Hardly," Brooke argued. "Wade hasn't stopped talking about you since the day you met." "The boy is smitten." "Mom!" cried Wade, mortified. "Oh, come on, Brooke." "Oh, come on," said Brooke. "I'm your mother. I know when something's lighting you up. I just didn't think she would be so smoky." Brooke faked a cough at Ember's smokiness, and they all laughed. Come this way. Meet the rest of the family. Marco Polo, her, I think that's his brother's kids. It's kind of funny. Harold, which is his uncle, I think, if I'm reading correctly. And I like this part. It's kind of a little insensitive, but that was probably the point, and it is kind of funny. Harold looked at Ember. "I just have to say," he said, a bit too loudly and slowly, "that you speak so well and clear." Wade shot his uncle a look, but Ember kept her cool. "Yeah, it's amazing what talking in the same language your entire life could do," she said. "Oh," said Harold, embarrassed at his inappropriate comment, I'd say. I mean, if you get that, what that scene was hitting at there, it kind of speaks for itself. It's kind of, like I said, it was kind of an insensitive part. That was the point, I think, and it is kind of funny in a certain. It is, I guess, kind of funny in a way. Yeah. And and then when she fixes this lantern that's broken or a picture that's broken, As Ember worked, her inner light cast rainbows across the room. She was so lost in her creative process. She barely noticed that everyone was watching her. She saw the others staring when she was done. Ember zipped up her fire. Oh, sorry, she said quickly. That was incredible, gushed Harold. The whole family began cheering and applauding. Ember's face burned, probably blushed again, so that's kind of funny, because she was getting all this positive attention, so, it happens sometimes. When you get a lot of praise, you're not used to it. It's just melted glass, she said modestly.